July 17th, 2025 is the official 70th birthday for Disneyland in Anaheim, California, and All Streets is there. Join us as we take a deeper dive into the celebration, the significance and the meaning that spawned an entirely new industry, and recall what makes the Disneyland park exceptional. I will share some insights in my time here as well, so keep your eyes open for a few surprises throughout. This is All Streets Gourmand. Everybody, this is Jack with All Streets Gourmand. We're out here on Disneyland's 70th birthday. It's actually today, July 17th, 2025. Pretty happy to kind of explore things on its anniversary date, its birthday. It's a very loose agenda today. So we're gonna see if we can find some food options, things like that. What we're gonna be doing too is going around in a couple of different places, a lot of anecdotal things for myself. I actually used to work here ages ago. Kind of some insights on things back then and kind of fast forward to today. We're really going to stick to a couple of the different lands that have been around since 1955 as kind of a base, and then we're going to go head over to the hotel because that is part of the celebration, in my opinion. So with that, let's go check things out. Where July 17th represents the first day of Disneyland's opening, this date was supposed to represent a press preview day and a live broadcast event, but because thousands of counterfeit tickets made their way to eager hands, the press and VIP list was intermingled with about as many of the curious. As you know, the day was rife with problems, but it did not stop its success in the coming years. Disneyland's opening day lands included Frontierland, Tomorrowland, Adventureland, Fantasyland, and Main Street USA. Obviously, the park has evolved over 70 years, but there are still definite touches of Walt unchanged until this day. All right, so one of the areas we're going to focus on today is Main Street, right behind me there. And as you can see, people are lined up for the parade, so that might start in a few minutes. One of the reasons why we're focused on a few of the different lands is they remained extant from the 1955 opening. And of course, it was just a groundbreaking concept of themed entertainment, of theme parks, and breaking away to Walt's dream of having a very safe, very clean place in order to take families and kids. This little mini parade, which I'll assume was only for July 17th, was a celebration through their characters, including some new and old faces, middled by a very large birthday cake as it wound its way throughout the park. This merry walk down Main Street is nothing new. In 1955, there was likewise a parade, primarily for the live television show. Characters for that day, insisted on by Walt himself, included Mickey, Minnie, Donald, characters from Alice in Wonderland, Chip and Dale, and a few more. And speaking of the opening day telecast, titled Dateline Disneyland, this was to broadcast live on ABC stations. The event famously had 29 cameras to cover the entirety of the park, with miles and miles of cable running all over the place. Ronald Reagan, at the time known as a television personality, was co-hosting the event, along with Art Linkletter, Robert Cummings, and Fess Parker. Now stick around during the segues. We've highlighted 70th anniversary merchandise from around the resort. All right, so one of the very key distinguishing design characteristics of the park is actually behind me. And again, it shows the vision of Walt, and what he did when he designed a theme park was this idea of a central hub. I think a lot of us take it for granted for today, but that idea was actually a new one where you can go to a center point of the park and then everything kind of radiates from that standpoint onward. This idea actually carries itself from an operational standpoint behind the scenes, and we actually call that section behind the curtain there the hub. The idea behind that is you actually have the ability to go to different parts of the park from a worker and an employee standpoint and then make your way around. So this concept has served them well over the years. It's obviously been lifted for other blueprints for other parks and other themed attractions. So again, just another great design piece from Walt. What better way to enjoy the 70th birthday with a little popcorn? Now, this has definitely been around since the very beginning of the park, and why not? Popcorn is always delicious. It's always fun. You always look forward to it when you come, and there's a beautiful little box here that we've been able to take home. So it's got a 70th logo on it. A couple of things. There are very special items that are pockmarked around the park at the moment. Very difficult to get in, so popcorn definitely very easy, no line there. Right behind me too, I want to point out Disney's apartment. So you see the light up there, that light is always lit in honor of Walt. So Walt's apartment is very interesting. He would have a very small place for him and his family to get out of the weather or the activity, so that way they have a real quiet place to go. And what better place than above the firehouse there. We're going to continue walking around Main Street and point a couple of other things out. We're sticking to some of the themed areas that have been extant since the 1955 opening. One of them is Frontierland. And what's interesting about it and its background is a lot of Disney's success actually came from the television shows or from the short films or some of the longer feature films. And what we see there is that Frontierland is one of those. You had a lot of the American spirit, and that's something that Walt really wanted to encapsulate and celebrate. And so Frontierland is one of those themed areas that's always really carried across from different parks. And it's always been a very exciting one for me to check out, and it's actually remained largely intact for the most part. Things like the Golden Review, the Horseshoe Review has stayed there, the Steamboat. All right, so another distinguishing characteristic of Walt's vision and the way to enhance and have immersion in the theme park is Rivers of America itself. Again, I think we take things like this for granted, but the design of the river here that goes around a static island with two different ships. You have two different ships here, the Columbia and also the Mark Twain. And both of them really just kind of get you into the mood, into the immersion of the space itself. So again, another great design piece and another great vision. If you've never done Columbia below decks, that some people don't even know about that, you've got some amazing features down in below of a ship that is meant to be reminiscent of the 1850s. And so during the fur trapping period, there's a lot of those effects and a lot of design pieces that are down in there. All right, so what better way to enjoy the 70th is the chicken itself. And so Plaza Inn has served probably billions of fried pieces of chicken here. And so this meal has remained largely intact. So you've got 3 pieces of fried chicken. This is always one of the places too where we take folks if they really want something good. It's also a nice sit down. We're inside the Plaza Inn itself. You get a vegetable medley, a really fresh potatoes mashed with gravy, with a chicken gravy, and then a biscuit. The other thing they're having to celebrate today, there's a lot of these things punctuated throughout the park today, is a 70th anniversary happy birthday cake. It's very cute, very colorful, as you can see that color scheme, which I really have adored since we came here a couple of weeks ago, is intact here as well. So really cool, happy to dig in a second. Now, having worked the kitchen at Plaza Inn, it is a mite difficult to get a comprehensive recipe for their chicken, but I can say that this chicken recipe is not very fussy. It comes from a mid-century traditional buttermilk, flour, salt, and white pepper recipe. And the key to its success is how it's cooked. It is pressure fried, which locks the moisture in and produces a very full-flavored, juicy piece of chicken, harder to create at home. The birthday cake is absolutely wonderful with layers of pound cake, cherry compote, chocolate mousse, and lemon curd pastry cream covered in a white chocolate ganache. It's a wonderfully bright cake, but take photos before you dig in. Although Plaza Inn was not the name of this location in July of 1955, it was the Red Wagon Inn, with the overall structure and design intact as it is today. However, it was John Hench and Walt that transformed its design to the more Disney-approved, bright and comfortable look today. Plaza Inn opened in July of 1965. And eating here is quintessential to Disneyland, sitting adjacent to Tomorrowland with the Matterhorn and Sleeping Beauty Castle near. It actually provides one of the most unique dining experiences in any of the Disney parks. One can still feel the connection to Disney's original vision for the park and how the experience, even of eating, was meant to connect directly to the overall experience. Keeping on theme here is Plaza Inn is actually a place I used to work. So I'm looking around here. I've probably cleaned every nook and cranny. I'm not joking. Every square inch of this place, at least at one point over the couple of years that I worked here. What's interesting about the hub concept that we've been talking about throughout, that extends over into the operational areas. So right outside the Plaza Inn is a bit of a hub there where we have areas where we cook food for other parts of the park. There is a beautiful pantry area where when I used to be leaving at night, 1 or 2 in the morning, the pantry people were just coming in and they would be making things like the cake we just enjoyed. They'd be making pastries around the park. So any of the breads, any of the bread bowls, any of the desserts that are happening throughout, usually it's coming from the hub area right here behind us. When I worked at Tahitian Terrace, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, the Tahitian Terrace kitchen was attached to the Plaza Pavilion. Plaza Pavilion is the Plaza Inn sister right across the street here. So we would share the kitchen there between the two. We'd also share the kitchen with the pantry that's back there where they cut the pineapple spears for the Dole Whip stand. As a culinary host here at Plaza Inn, doing busing and cleaning up this entire area, over at Tahitian Terrace I was a server. And then between all of those different functions, you learn a lot about the operations of the park, and it's just fascinating. The efficiency, the show. It's just a really good way of learning and kind of a foundation for me as a young person to grow up and have that foundation here. So it brings back a lot of memories to talk about it here, but it's always been a great memory for me, and the service has not changed. It's just still a very beautiful place. So we're standing up right outside Tropical Hideaway. This place has a lot of memories for me because it used to be Tahitian Terrace. I was here back in 1989 to about 1991, a little bit after that as well. And so I saw the transition from Tahitian Terrace over to Aladdin's Oasis. Aladdin's Oasis now has turned into Tropical Hideaway, so they kind of converted it away from Agrabah and then over to this overlay here. For those that don't know, Tahitian Terrace was another tremendous concept from the Imagineers, Walt, and all the creatives, and Disney does this very well, is you don't have to go to the other locations, they'll bring the location to you. Tahitian Terrace was a way to bring the tropical island atmosphere into a small little enclave, this area here behind me. And the idea was that you would enjoy effectively what was a luau, along with some Tahitian dancing and a bit of a show with fire knife dancing. And so when I used to work here, we would be servers that were AAPI, in essence, to kind of maintain that experience and maintain that kind of atmosphere. People love the show, they love the food. We had amazing dishes like really just delicious ribs, pineapple fried rice. We had a Tahitian punch that I'd love to replicate one of these days because it was just tremendous, very sugary, but very good. So yeah, this area here, there was a stage right here to my left, and we'll show a little bit of a sweep. And then outside of that, we had seating that went all the way up here in the berm right behind me. So you see parts of it still here today. And so Tahitian Terrace was that little enclave. For some of you that might know this or used to know it as Aladdin's Oasis, it was the same overlay, the same seating, but of course it was all Agrabah, and then the show and the stage was still up here in the front. They kept the little waterfall that used to be behind me as well. And then they had a little fire show that would come out of there. So a lot of memories for me here. Spent a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears there behind me. One of the other areas that we're exploring and has remained extant since 1955 is Adventureland. And so it's really interesting. Every time I've come back and just look at everything, it's really remained virtually the same and relatively unchanged, with the static buildings that were already in place, things like the Tiki Room here that encased the Tiki Show that also came from the World's Fair. And that is adjacent to the restaurant, which is now Tropical Hideaway. And so that whole building has remained intact there. The bazaar has remained intact, and so has the Jungle Cruise loading area. So as you walk down, you're really virtually seeing much of the same as it was in 55. What has changed are like the little islands and the pedestrian walkways have changed over the time, but you can always come to the bazaar and get some really good merchandise. It's always a fun place to shop, open air. There have been countless books written on the effect of Disneyland's opening, but having worked there and contemplated this quite a bit over the years, the 5 things that really make an indelible impression up to today is its timelessness, its classic sensibilities, cleanliness, consistency, and of course magic. You either know how to make it or you don't. Now, one of the beautiful things about Main Street, and one thing we're really talking a lot about today, is the original design of the park and the beauty of Main Street and the way they crafted it. Obviously, the first thing is Walt wanted to do an idyllic view of Main Street, USA. This could be any town in the USA, it's Main Street. One thing from a design perspective that's really interesting about Main Street is the forced perspective and its use. Obviously, forced perspective is not new, but the way that they employed it here to have the Main Street run up to the hub and then the castle made you feel like you're actually walking much longer distance than you actually are. Give you a sense of feeling and then also give you emotion around it. And that's a big part of the way the park is designed. So Main Street, even though we kind of breeze past it a lot of times and we walk past it, enjoy the forced architecture of the buildings itself. I was just admiring as I was walking down the street how the tops of the buildings are slightly smaller than the rest of the wider buildings, because what that does is make you feel like they're actually higher than they actually are. It also, using by different textures that they do across the different facades, makes you feel like there is actually more there, like there's almost a bustling city feel no matter what angle you're looking at or what little nook and cranny that you went across. And that's important because it gives you that sense of time and space. And so don't breeze past Main Street the next time you're here. Really take a closer look at the way they designed it, how the streets are paved, how the nooks and crannies do kind of surprise you at times in their toss and turn. So staying on theme a bit here, we're standing outside of the Disneyland Hotel. Just like Disneyland in 1955, the hotels were built in 1955, not exactly on July 17th, but a couple months later in October of the same year. And one of the interesting things is, and again, we talk a lot about the innovation of the entire resort area, and one of those is the hotel itself. Things that get overlooked over time. Disneyland Hotel was one of the first that was really attached very closely. Obviously, it's just across the street is the park itself. Here's the hotel resort. So not only did they build it in the theme of Disneyland and actually put the Disneyland Hotel, which was a really important thing at the time. If Disney did not give them the rights, they would have not had that Disneyland moniker and Disneyland logo on the hotels itself. So it actually was part of the experience. So people that would stay here would experience the hotel as well as the park. And so it was a very cohesive theme that they would do at the time. We shouldn't overlook things like that. Other innovation here at the hotel was in 1960, they added the monorail system to then do a full leg over to the hotel system. And as you guys have seen with other Disney parks, that type of theming of transportation and connectivity still remains. So innovations that started here in Anaheim have moved across the rest of the world. So as we walk around the hotel, we're going to show you a couple of touches that call back to 1955. So the other innovation at the time, and I do recall this, I was very young when I came here with my parents, but my dad insisted on staying. There was more of an Asian hotel offshoot that no longer exists here. But one of the other innovations was, and you see cars behind me, is that you could actually check into the hotel via your car. My dad loved things like that, so he didn't have to go inside, park the car, go to the concierge, get your key, go back to the car, yada, yada, yada. You could actually pull up, check in, and then go drive to your room. In this case, they had a really beautiful suite with a patio at the time. So really, I still remember a lot of that. The other innovation here at the hotel is it was all inclusive. So it was actually a shopping center along with the hotel. So some of you may recall back in the day, we'd actually come here to pay bills or go to the post office. They actually had a toy store here that I used to come here for Christmas presents. And the pools here were just top notch at the time and just amazing. So the experience of the hotel and the park really intertwined and meshed together to create a cohesive entertainment, and I would say almost like a resort-like experience. This is Jack signing off with All Streets Gourmand, and it is not ironic that we ended up here at the hotel with we've talked about a lot of the old and what opened, but now we also talk about the new. What I appreciate about the villas that they just recently opened up this past year or so is that they took a lot of the design concepts from the earlier hotels, so it blends in very nicely. I actually really appreciate the colors, the lines that they're following along with the original hotel. So as we end here, we hope that you learned quite a bit. You learned a little bit about me and my role here at Disneyland when I was much, much younger. But I really had a great time. Like I said, it was a foundation for the way that I work and how I do things today. So it was always good to kind of go back and revisit a lot of that. Tell us about your experience at the 70th. If you happen to be here, there was a lot of vloggers here today, so it was really interesting. But I'm really happy to kind of end things in a very quiet location right now, kind of soaking it in, hearing the water from where the waterfall used to be a long time ago. I used to enjoy a lot of time here when they had the full waterfall display, and the dancing waters over here on my right. So with that, we appreciate all of you for liking and subscribing, interacting with our videos. We've really come a long way, and it's because of you. So we really appreciate that. We want to thank you, and we'll see you on the next adventure.